this is a hybrid of a terrorist state and also a group like Al-Qaeda. So think of it this way. Al-Qaeda, in their heyday, which I would argue is even coming back, but Al-Qaeda in their heyday was about having a location to strike out from. It wasn't necessarily about expanding territory, though they wouldn't have been opposed to it. It was about making terrorist attacks against the West or targets that were sympathetic to it. ISIS is now both developing and establishing territory and also striking out. So if you look into Baghdad, for instance, I mean, it's very depressing for me because Baghdad, when I was in Iraq personally, we saw, my last tour in Iraq, I mean, we're looking down at Baghdad and seeing kids playing soccer and, people out walking. They have bars in downtown Baghdad, for goodness sakes. It's just a real nice area, and the Iraqi people are very good. But to see this happening again is depressing. So ISIS is trying to destabilize. They're trying to take Baghdad back to what it was, in 2005, 2006, in essence, an armed fortress. And you're seeing now the ISIS striking into Saudi Arabia, and I think we ought to not take those Saudi Arabian strikes very, very lightly because Saudi Arabia has these holy sites in it, and having the holy sites gives the government a lot of leverage to really step up, a Sunni versus Shia kind of thing. And I think the potential there is that this explodes to, in essence, where it's a whole Sunni versus Shia holy war, and that basically, by definition, would almost be like a World War III. It would just bring folks in from everywhere to fight everywhere. And so this is a very dangerous, very tenuous situation. And again, it's, as I've often used, it's not like your house is on fire. It's almost like your condo's on fire, and it's going to spread to other condos if you're not careful.
And yet the administration clings to we're doing the right thing, we are handling things properly, we are making inroads, yet you have pilots themselves who are saying, look, I've got ISIS fighters in my sight, I'm waiting over an hour for clearance.
Well, that's right. And, I mean, look at a year ago when we started this strategy, where we were. Look at where we are today, a year later. And ISIS is stronger, ISIS has more numbers, ISIS is more powerful than they were a year ago. When I called for bombing them a year and a half ago, there were only a few thousand of them. Today there's 30, 40, 50,000 ISIS fighters. And you're right, pilots are coming back saying, look, I flew reconnaissance in Iraq, and I'll tell you, when we get a target of opportunity, sometimes you may only have 5 or 10 minutes to take that target out. It's just like if you're driving your car, most of your trips are only 5 or 10 minutes long, maybe 20. With the level of folks that have got to approve any strike that's being done in Iraq right now or in Syria, in many cases we find that it may take an hour to get strike approval if they even get it. Plus, there are the number of open targets we hear about in Syria right now, headquarters and command and control centers that we haven't even touched that belong to ISIS.